round 5 of Amaz's first impression of the TGT new cards. So a couple were released today. We have about 12 to go over. And of course, you guys can also tell me what you guys think in the chat below for YouTube, or the chat now if you're on Twitch right now. So let's start with the Druid Legendary Aviana. It's a 9-mana 5/5 and your minions cost 1. Alright, so first impression when I first looked at this is like, oh my god, this card sucks, right? So you have to play in turn 10 and you need to protect it. So but the dream would probably be like Aviana into Ancient of War, and you cannot deal with your Aviana, so then you just play your whole hand or something, right? But at the same time, like, how many cards are you going to be playing if you're going to play a card every turn? And like, it also doesn't fit the Druid style of like going for a combo kill, right? Because Aviana does not deal damage to the face, and it's a 9-mana 5/5, and you would never play a 9-mana 5/5 in like the double combo list, right? You just want to kill your opponent fast. So I guess this card will only be prevalent in Ramp Druid, and in Ramp Druid, you always have to say, is this good enough to be considered as a card? And I guess it actually is, because like, I don't know, you can like nourish into this a bit quicker, and then when you play this and you actually protect it with, say, Ancient of War, you can actually play your whole hand. That might actually include nourishing into 3 drops or something, but I cannot see this being played in Combo Druid at all. And the thing is, like, even in Ramp Druid, is this better than like KT? I'm not really sure. And KT would just be better sometimes, right? If you have a board already, you trade upwards, and you have taunts, stuff like that. So I'm not really sold on this card. I don't really like it. But I'm pretty sure that some people are gonna be using it really weirdly, and you are gonna see those trolling games where this card is gonna be insane. But I don't think it's gonna have too much of a high impact. Emperor, people are saying that Emperor does carry forward. So like, if you play Emperor first and you have Aviana in your hand, you can actually play Aviana for 8 mana and then dump everything else at the board as well. But at the same time, that is also kind of weird, because first of all, how often does that come up? And you have Aviana as a deck card, and yeah, I really think that even with the Aviana thing is kind of the Emperor combo, it's kind of awkward. So yeah, I still don't see this as too high of an impact for Druid cards, Druid decks at least. That's my opinion. Might be wrong, but I guess I don't mind being wrong as well. Anub'arak is the Road Legendary, and god, this is really sad. I mean, it's really cool that this is actually just strictly better than Malorn, because Malorn is like, you put this back in your deck, so it's just like a 9/7 that dies, right? And this is obviously better than Malorn, but then how often do you want to, as a rogue, just play a 9-mana drop every single turn, right? So the dream is obviously to play this. Your opponent can't deal with this, so it just goes to her face, and then you trade something, and then you play this again, and then you just grind your opponent out, right? I don't really see this played as a rogue style right now. We might see a control rogue going on or something. Handy Chaps, thanks for the sub. Like, maybe a control rogue would be a thing, because Burglar is also a card, which we're going to talk about later. But yeah, 9-mana card that doesn't do anything the turn it's played might be very difficult. In Arena, this card is really good. I think I would play this in Arena, because obviously this is just like the definition of win condition, right? I mean, every other card in this game right now does not have a win condition quite like this just now. Sure, you can silence it, but then if you don't silence it, it just basically is infinite cards. You have infinite cards in your deck, right? That's insane. It's kind of like Malorn in the sense that if it actually goes to that stage of the game where you run the cards, that this just carries over and just wins you the game. So this is okay in Arena. It's fine. There's a lot of bad legendaries in Arena too, so it's okay. And of course, it's freaking Anub'arak, okay? I wish they actually made something else, like make this like a 6/8 and summon like a lot of dudes or something. That would be fitting much more of Rogue, because Rogue needs a lot of bodies on the board, and it will actually be very thematic because Anub'arak summons Karen Beetles and stuff like that. But, yeah. All right, onwards to Confuse. Basically, if you want to be very trippy, you play this card, and you can. I really hope the animation for this card is really cool. So when you play Confuse, like the purple mist starts going there, and then you start going, like the screen starts going weird. There's like unicorns that fly everywhere, and like Stickman, and like psychedelic effects and stuff like that. That would be cool. But as far as this card as a actual effect, it's actually pretty useless. Because it doesn't affect the board at all, right? You compare this to other AoE effects like Holy Nova or like Consecration, stuff like that. This actually doesn't do anything. Now, why this card can actually see play and might be actually useful, in my opinion, is that Priest has a lot of high health minions, right? And if you actually use this as kind of like a Savage Roar-esque kind of card, it actually makes a lot of sense, right? And then you start to go like, okay, what else can I use this card for? I can use this card for, you know, board trading into Cabal Shadow Priest, right? So for example, I don't know, if you have like Blade Master and you have a Lotheb or something, you attack, and then you confuse, you actually pretty much clear the board, and then you can like do something cute like Cabal and stuff like that afterwards. You can also use confuse into like something like Shadow with Pain, Shadow with Death, and stuff like that. So like this is a cute card, but you have to actually build a deck around this card for it to be useful. And I think there might be a confused deck, right? Dark Cultists can see play again. You know, there's a lot of times where you actually have like a Blade Master that's at 11 health, and you can't do anything with it because like an 11 health Blade Master still only has 4 attack, so you're not really doing much. But if you put this card in, suddenly, if you have 2 Blade Masters, it's actually a lot of pressure, right? Obviously, it needs to hit more than one target. Otherwise, you'll be playing like you should actually be playing Crazed Alchemist instead. But like, it's cool. I think it actually will be cool, especially if you play Silence as well, right? We know that if you silence a swap minion, the minion actually, you know, turns up to high health again. If you can also bring its health down to its original swapped value. There's a very interesting Crazed Alchemist thing with Silence that you get should probably be explored if you actually are a Priest player. It's very confusing. Get it? Confusing. So I don't know. It will be pretty rewarding for people who actually, you know, try this out. Oh, and here's just a bigger picture of it. Alright, next one we have the Grand Crusader. 6 mana 5/5, and it draws you a card, which is actually not found in any card right now. The closest one is Azuric, right? Azuric is 5 mana 4/4, draws a card. This is a 6 mana 5/5 that draws a card. And first of all, when I first looked at this card, I went like, oh, so I guess Paladin is the worst Paladin class because everybody can be a Paladin now, right? Yeah, it actually finds a lot of place in a lot of things, right? So for example, like I would actually imagine me running Druid, this in Druid, because there's a lot of Paladin cards that are good enough for Druid that can actually work. So like if we actually go really quickly now to the Paladin list, obviously there are some bad cards like Light's Justice, Blessing of Wisdom, Eye for an Eye. These are really bad. But then there's also a lot of high impact cards, right? Like any weapon for Druid is insane. Aldor Peacekeeper, any 4-drop is insane. Bolvar would be pretty sad, I guess. But there's a lot of high value cards. These are actually can't see right now, but like something like these, right? These are insane. Any 4 health 4-drops like these are pretty insane. So I could see this being a pretty okay. Note to self, I cannot cancel window capture. Alright, otherwise I will have to edit this again. Very awkward. Alright. But yeah, I think this is really cool. And I would try this in Priest as well. I think the best decks for this is like decks that do not have weapons, because the chance of getting a weapon in a non-weapon class is really, really insane. Obviously you compare this to stuff like, I don't know, the other 6 drops, obviously, Sylvanas, Emperor, and stuff like that. And sometimes drawing that card is actually pretty important. So I could see this getting played. Not in Paladin though, because you do not need more Paladin cards. So not bad. Pretty cool. Oh, Fist of Jaraxxus, man. You can actually fist a random enemy for 4 damage if you manage to discard this card. So what are some discard effects? Succubus, Soulfire, Doomguard, Deathwing. That's pretty much the extent of this. And of course, sadly, it doesn't work with Fel River. It got confirmed in Twitter that it doesn't work with Fel River, which it should work with Fel River, right? It's very thematic because Fel River it does say discard a card, right? Which is kind of sad, but that's obviously not the case, which is sad. But yeah, obviously the dream would be to play Doomguard, and then you can discard 2 of these, and then it goes both go face, so you can just like, you know, double fist your opponent for 13 damage. That's insane. That is the dream. But overall, this card is really bad. I don't think this is gonna get played because 4 mana deal 4 to a random enemy. It's like a flame cannon, which is really really bad. A 4 mana flame cannon is basically not gonna see play. Not to mention that you have to play cards like Succubus. And how often do you actually have Fist of Jaraxxus and Succubus or something like that, or like Soulfire, in your hand? I don't think it's gonna be too insane. The only way I can see this working is Malygos Warlock, where you actually play Malygos, right? And then you have these, and then you play Soulfire, and then Fist or something. But you still have to clear the board, so like Hellfire. You know, you can see this working, but it's gonna be in a very niche deck, and normal Warlock decks would never, ever going to be using this, ever. 4 mana deal 4 is so terrible, and 4 mana deal 4 to random, to make if you hit this, if this hits a creeper, you're just gonna be grossed out. So yeah. Next we have Living Roots, a 1 mana basically arcane shot, but you can also make it to summon 2/1/1s. Now this is very important in Druid, because you start to think about like Druid games, right? How often you lose in Druid when you still have like 4 or more cards. You get what I mean? So like, oh, I lost to this Paladin, I still have 4 cards in my hand. Oh, I lost to this Patron Warrior. Oh, I still have 6 cards in my hand, you know? It's very easy to have a lot of cards in Druid. And that's kind of the problem with the Druid deck composition, is that it runs a lot of high impact cards. So if you actually say like have 1 Living Roots instead, and actually go closer to like hand management and do a lot more impact, it would actually improve Druid a lot. So I think this card is actually really good for Druid. Another way to put this is like, the dream of killing your opponent is that you use all your cards the turn before lethal, and they can't do anything about it, right? So like, yeah, that's basically what every deck tries to accomplish, right? Use all your cards in your hand and kill your opponent. Leftover cards are not going to give you bonus points, okay? It's not going to give you even any style points. So there's actually no reason to keep cards when you're about to win. That's why mid-range Paladin is really good, right? Mid-range Paladin goes up to like, you use all your cards at turn 10-ish, and then you kill your opponent after that, right? So I think this is going to see play. Whether we see 2 copies of this, it's kind of insane, because the more low cost cards you have in your deck, the easier that you can fizzle out, so that you get, oh, you have an empty hand and your opponent's not close to dead and you're top decking, which is terrible. You never want to do that. So 2 might be a stretch, but 1 seems really really nice, as long as you can like deal 2 damage, right? Force of Nature, Savage Roar, and then Living Roots for 16 damage. That is actually relevant late game as well. So 1 mana card for Druid, very good. Speaking of like low cast cards for decks that can fizzle, we have a Flash Heal for Priest. And yeah, I was really excited. I actually tweeted about it too. Priest can actually heal, right? Which is like the first thing that comes to mind if you're a priest is like healing, right? Does really seem awkward when paladins have Holy Light for 6 health for 2 mana, and they can actually heal better than priest, which is so stupid. But now priest can actually heal very very efficiently. I don't think there's any other card that has a 5 health for every 1 mana spent, right? Because if you actually translate this Lay on Hands have to heal for 40 health, right? 8 mana has to heal for 40 health, which is like, no, there's no way, right? So this is pretty cool. Good tech card against like, you know, hunters and like, you know, face paladin. That's really prevalent. And of course, the one thing that everybody's most excited about is the fact that Alchemy can be played with this card, and this is actually DO5. And DO5 for 1 mana is actually pretty insane, right? Not only can you go Alchemy Flash Heal not a Lothar, but like a Belcher at turn 4 or 5, right? That's pretty strong. You can also use this against the face, and people are gonna go like, oh wow, why won't you play Emperor against with like a Freeze Priest, right? The Fireback Freeze Priest kind of thing, and actually be insane. So for example, like Emperor, and then you can like Alchemy double Flash Heal, double Light of the Naru and then double Mind Blast, or even put Valence somewhere, or Malagos or something like that. Crusader's been pretty insane in that kind of deck, and we need some more draw mechanics though. Like, even if you put this in like a normal control priest or like a mid-range priest or whatever Deathlord priest, the problem with this card is that it fizzles out really fast, right? The more low mana cards you play, the more card draw you need. So I think that card draw might have to see play in some priests and not just cleric, because cleric sometimes it's just not enough. You need to draw it with like Pyromancer and like, or like Valence for it to like you know, get most use of it. So that's the only concern when you build a Flash Shield. It's a good card, but you gotta be a little bit more careful with deck building. Next card is Alexstrasza's Champion. Oh baby. Oh baby. It's a 2-mana 3/3 charge. That is pretty insane, but a lot of people are overvaluing this card a bit, because first of all, you do need a dragon in your hand for this to work, and secondly, if you're playing dragons, you do not need to charge at the face, because the first thing you look at charge minions is that it's the most valuable is that it actually goes to the face, right? Like, you would never play Wolf Rider and trade for something, because it's a 3-mana deal 3, and you would never play a 3-mana deal 3 when you have Dark Bomb, Frostbolt, Quick Shot, you know, stuff like that. So going for the face is obviously the best. Now, if you put this in a Dragon Warrior, which means it's pretty, you know, control-ish, I guess. I can't imagine an aggro warrior running like this and Fairy Dragon only. Seems really hard. So the best way to use this is actually just charge and actually trade for something and kill 2 things. And then you ask yourself, isn't this just more of a fancy Fire War Axe? You get what I mean? Like, this is kind of like a Fire War Axe in that it trades for 2 things, right? A 3/3 that charges a 2/2, for example, a Mad Scientist, and then you still have a 3/1, then that kills something else, but you already have War Axe. And what's the worst situation? The worst outcome is that, first of all, it has to charge a Knife Juggler, which is like 2 mana, deal 3 damage. Okay, that's pretty bad, because you expect more from a 2 mana drop. And not to mention that you can also actually drop this without a dragon, okay? Like, if you have this in turn 2 and you don't have a dragon, your opponent's a Knife Juggler, what do? Do you just play this? Or do you just like save this for later? In that case, this card is actually a little bit overhyped in my opinion. So I don't think it's too good. I think it's a good card, but I don't think it's insane as people think it is. Not at all. Oh, a 4-mana weapon for Shamans again. It seems that Shamans have a lot of weapons now too. 4-mana 2/4, and your hero power becomes basically a shadow form, right? Very, very weird card. Printing this card, you gotta say like, okay, maybe Shaman's hero power is pretty bad, because why would you ever want to change your hero power if it actually is good, right? So, like, if you play this card in your deck, you're basically saying that Shaman's hero power is bad, and why am I not playing a Hunter? The dream scenario with this is like, I don't know, you equip this in turn 4, you hit something, and then turn 5, you hit something again, and you replace it with like a Pyromace or a Doom Hammer as well. At that point, you're playing so many weapons that you're kind of trying to be cute. Plus, you also need to use this hero power, right? I mean, the Death Rattle is cool and all, but you forget, a lot of people forget that you actually need to spend 2 mana to activate this deal 2 damage. It's not free or anything. So activating Death Rattle is not like, oh, I win the game immediately. You don't immediately win. Not to mention that this is also like a 4-mana weapon that is a 2/4. We already have 2-mana weapons that are 2/2s. Would you really pay 2 more mana for like 2 more durability that is only gonna retain its own attack? Like, not really, right? Not really at all. And if of course if they made this a 4-mana 3/4, it's strictly better than a Assassin's Blade, which is not gonna be a thing. So yeah, 4-mana 2/4 is pretty bad stats overall. And the Death Rattle is not even a good thing. You get what I mean? I don't think they actually even factored in the Death Rattle for stats, right? 4-mana 2/4 makes sense, because 5-mana 3/4 you get an Assassin's Blade, like I said. But Despite and True Silver Champion is just so much better than this. I don't even want this effect. So I would rate this card to be pretty bad. In Arena, I guess it could be usable because deal 2 damage in Arena is actually fine. You actually do not need to cast this like Shadow Form, so I guess this is okay in Arena. We got the Warhorse Trainer, 3 mana 2/4. For Paladins, it says your Silver Hand recruits get a Raid Leader effect, and I think this card is also really bad. A lot of people, well, especially the Archon guys, think this is insane, but I think it's gonna be really bad because first of all, you play this and it's basically a Raid Leader, and nobody plays Raid Leader to begin with. So the effect, of course, is not valued highly. Secondly, it's like only affects your Silver Hand recruits. So you're trying to imagine situations where this is actually good, right? So like, okay, turn 2 hero power, turn 3 this. You're giving a recruit 1 more attack, and you're giving a 2/4. That doesn't really impact the board too much. You got what I mean? So that's bad. What's another situation? You coin muster, and then you play this, and you give everything 1 attack. If that is such an insane effect, then why don't people just play Direwolf Alpha? You know, why don't people just play Direwolf Alpha? It's kind of the exact same thing, and it gives 1 attack, and it's even cheaper, right? So like, we can know that the +1 attack on your minions is not that relevant. Knife Juggler also is +1 attack, but it works every single time. And yeah, I don't see this being in the Paladin deck, especially with Aldor Peacekeeper and Muster for Battle being your 3 drops. Even like, if you want another 3 drop in your deck, why not just play Clockhammer? And Clockhammer is like much more better. It's basically you're summoning a 2 attack minion, that 2 attack minion being your face, and you're giving Divine Shield and Taunt as well. And it's also, yeah, people are comparing this to Leok as well, right? Like, Leok is pretty much the worst one, and this is a more glorified Leok, so I don't like this card at all. I wouldn't put it in my Paladin deck. Okay. Oh my god! You too can become a spooky Night Elf lady with this card by discarding your whole hand and gaining 10 mana crystals. Oh my god. Very good card in terms of design because it's crazy. It enables some weird stuff with deck building and whatnot. And yeah, so what's the dream here? The dream is obviously to play this turn 4, not turn 10. You do not want to play this at turn 10 because otherwise, well, you can facepalm a little bit, right? Because when you discard your hand, you can't play any more cards. You can't go like this is a super innervate. Yeah, this is a super innervate. Or like super wild growth, or however you want to put it, but like you lose your hand. So a few things that we can talk about this. First of all, if you play this at turn 4, you better top deck like a god. Okay, so what do you want in your deck? You want Ancient of Lore, obviously. You want cards like Ragnaros or like, you know, Nourish to draw more cards back. Azure Drake, so that you actually don't get screwed off completely by the discard your hand effect. That's the first thing. The second thing that we can actually think about is like, you actually set this up pretty well, right? So for example, you can play like Loot Hoarder on the board. You can play like Thalnos. You can also play like Jeeves or something, and then play this, and then you can actually get something in return. You get what I mean? So like, you know, play this, smash your Loot Hoarder, and then immediately play something because this gain 10 mana crystals, not gain 10 empty mana crystals. So this is kind of similar to Nourish. So you can actually play something immediately. So that's kind of cute. And thirdly, this is actually pretty good with the Inspire mechanic, right? Some people don't remember that this patch is kind of Inspire-ish, right? So if you play like Kodo Rider, right? The 6 mana 3/5, that whenever Inspire happens, you gain another 3/5, right? So like you can play a lot more Inspire minions. And when you top deck them, you can be pretty happy because you can basically click that hero power every single time when you play this card. That's basically guaranteed. But after all, is it really worth it to play this when there's a chance to draw this at turn 8? No. You do not want this. You do not want to draw this at turn 8 after 4, right? You draw this and you go like facepalm, and yeah. In Arena, this is unplayable. Do not play this card in Arena. We got the Lance Bearer. I don't know why this is not a bear. It's an orc. That doesn't make sense. But Let's Mirror is a 2-mana 1/2 that battle cries give a friendly minion +2 attack. And it does not say this turn only, so it's not abusive. It's not Dark Dwarf. It stays on the minion. So the dream situation is that the minion stays for longer than 1 turn. Because if it just dies, then it's actually really bad. Because we know from experience, from like Hearthstone Origins and stuff like that, that 1/2 is really bad. Ugh, it's like disgustingly bad. That is why, like, you know, Bloodsail Corsair, what else are 1/2s? Hungry. You gotta wait, like 1/2 minions stat line is impossibly bad. Okay, another way to look at it is like Master Swordsmith, Mana Addict. You know, 1/3s for 2 mana is insanely bad as well. So why the heck would you play a 2 mana 1/2? It's because of this effect. So this effect is actually pretty valuable if it stays on the minion. So I could imagine this being in like, I don't know, Face Hunter, I guess. Because the minion does need to live. If the minion does not live, you'll be playing Abusive instead, right? So as long as it lives, it's good. It's a 3/2. But if it doesn't, or if you have no board, it's really abysmal, right? Face Hunter also works with like charged minions, I guess. So like you can play like a Wolf Rider plus this, but then at the same time, do you really want to get a 1/2 instead of just hero power and playing something else like an Arcane Shot? I'm not really sure. So this card definitely seems better than it actually is, but at the same time, 1/2 is really, really bad. Very bad stat distribution. So you better be very careful of it. And of course, the last card that was just revealed not too long ago in this stream is Burglar. We got the 2 mana 2/2. When this minion attacks the enemy hero, put a coin into your hand. Oh baby, what the heck? That is the Coin Master. Although a 2 mana 2/2 is not that insane. So like 2 mana 2/2s are. The problem with 2 mana 2/2s is that they don't stick on the board, and they also don't contest. You get what I mean? That's why Kobold Geomancer doesn't see play, and like the effect has to be insane for it to be played. Example, Mad Scientist. That's basically that. So if it hits the opponent once, this is a 1 mana 2/2 that they have to deal with, because otherwise you're just gonna gain more coins. So as long as this minion hits the opponent, he has to cut his nails. Hits his opponent once, then it's worth it already. So how often do you play a 2 mana 2/2 and sticks on the board? Actually quite often, especially if you're going first. So this might be a tech card for rogues to go first, or it actually might spawn something like, I don't know, like once again the control kind of rogue with like Burglar and like, you know, Anub'arak. Kind of Blizzard's trying to push their direction for rogue to actually trade more rather than just play all rogue and be done with it. Because right now, let's be honest, the only deck that we see in ladder and constructed is the all rogue, right? So hopefully this spawns something else. Maybe bring the Geddysand auctioneer back with like million coins or whatnot. Play Enhancer Mechano, attack the enemy hero twice. Go a little bit insane, but overall this card is pretty weak, and you have to do some cutesy stuff for it to actually make the connection to the attack. So yeah, overall this set is pretty weird cards overall. You know, like stuff like these, I guess it won't be too sad to draft this in arena, right? Like you won't be too sad to draft these in arena as well, right? But overall in constructed, I think most of these cards do require kind of like cute deck building, and it's not gonna fit in the decks that we have right now. I just can't imagine this card being in like Handlock or like Zoolock, and even Malygos Warlock actually. Like Dark Bomb is so much more efficient, and if you play this, discard something. You need the Soulfire to discard this, and also not to hit a minion. That's just way too difficult. So yeah, overall very weird cards. Although very exciting, very fun. We'll have to see if they actually have a place in TGT. So yeah, that's the card review. I guess we will see you guys in the next one where more cards are going to be revealed. We still have, I believe, 6 60 more cards. So a little bit more, a little bit like half of the cards are gonna come up as well. So we'll see you then.